Assalamu alaikum. This is Advocate Gulraiz, the Advanced Comparative Constitutional Advocate. Today is the 24th of the May, and we have to understand further more issues of the Republic of the Pakistan, that which is the basic element leading the individuals in the controversial points. The task observations of the females' reproduction growth evaluation losses, and thereafter the consumption of the rights of the same in the fluctuating positions, and after that the observations of the economy, which is dissolved one, and after that we observe the factors of the humanitarian negligence into the compilations of the non-observations of the restoration rights of the said females in questions white, the article 199 and article 184 and article 100 of the constitution. So when we just compare the globalized institutional reforms in the central limits of the Pakistan, what we are observing that the central females and the provincial females, which are executing to their duties under the task obligations of the restoration rights of said females in question, and thereafter it is being provoked that the females are in the troublesome situation in the Pakistan and or Central Asia also. When we just compare the Mediterranean Sea and the other reciprocal channelized resources, that the business activities are deactivated in the central limited of the Pakistan, and all the business transitional areas of incomes generating factors and expenses output chart flows are totally outflow, because the tax evasion crime in Pakistan is raised. When I just observe that the tax evasion is a crime in the Pakistan, the public voluntarily is not willing to understand that the fluctuating positions of the tax notices to the said individuals are hereby uh, delivered to the same through online mediums and assessment. But when we just compare that, said individuals are not in the positions to compile the best adjournment or the answers to the compiled notices. Thereafter, it is observed that the institutional reforms are in the hectic situations with due respect. After all these eventualities, the working females under the employment rules and under the organization are suffering out of the modesty and under the innocence of the said females, and we are into the habit of not considering the humanitarian rights of the same as a matter of judicial grace. We have to observe that whether and there is another factor, that the compilations of the humanitarian observations in the due rights and the times obligations in interest line of the based with the base of accurate extracted laws should have been compiled. But when we just cross study the manipulative modes of assessment, we just observe the not we just observe the issues, the civil issues, the criminal issues by the article 199 of the constitution. So when the public is in the habit of having the revenge through the public, thereafter it becomes obvious to the said public that the said public would not get the due credible right out of the same public, and in the end of the day all of the said provisional institution would have no profit. So when any institution would have no profit, thereby the public would have generated no revenue. In Pakistan, it is also observed that the public is not willing to pay the proper taxation. They are not in the willful observations to pay their proper tax returns, well statements. Some of a minor quantity of the individuals are willing to just pay their due credible tax returns and well statements and reconcile one. But a lot of the individuals are not willing to fulfill their statutory. obligations in the forums of the rules and compilations, and we observe these factors because we are trying to oversee the fluctuating positions of the same as to just cover the gap of the prior generations. But when we just observe that the public is trying to convince the conviction or equital rate of the economy through having the small and medium enterprises, thereafter such enterprises would not run, because when I just cross study that the issue of the fluctuating position of the economy and the raising value lines of the dollar in the globalized state, thereby the dollar is not in the control, the banking culture is raising, and the public is maintaining double and triple triplicate accounts, and they are not showing those accounts in their wealth statements. Thereafter, the applications of the laws always under the amendment of the assessment orders always in the rules and compilations, but we are observing the legislative enactments in compilations of the rules of best derived judgments out of the compilations of the public provisional orders which are being generated in the compilations of the proper forums, and the dilatory issues of the republic is in the modes of the compilations to their acquisition of the monetary fund. I just have a thought, likewise the prior former rulers of the Pakistan had in their memory, that what if we just generate a central bank in the Pakistan, so that the such bank would have the all reserves in the same, and we will generate our income and expenses. This would be considered as advice, as a financial advisor to the Republic of the Pakistan, that if we just generate a central bank that would be considered as Islamic Shariat limited groups of the banks, and all of the individuals of the Pakistan would gather their incomes and expenses out of the same in the said bank, and there would be a lot of the jobs would be created for the unemployed individuals in the category of having no working. So in this regard, we will generate a lot of the incomes and expenses out of our country. So when we just compare it, that we are after the International Monetary Fund, we consider that the IMF will just solve our issues. But why should it be considering our issues? The International Monetary Fund Association is a group of association which generates its incomes and expenses out of the European state and the British state, multiplied the American state. But we, the Republic of the Pakistan, should have to consider or reconsider that we need Islamic Shariat groups of banks in Pakistan despite of the private banks. All private banks should be banned, and they should have no right to generate the income and expenses out of the public labor, so that the privatization in the Pakistan lead or leading the immoral principle deactivated values of the individuals. So those individuals are suffering because of the localized banks. Such banks do not cover the markup or any point of devalued economy position of the said individual, which refer its personal income in the said bank, so that in the bad eventualities the said person whose income is in the bank would be recovered by the institution. There are banking courts in the Pakistan. Such courts always refer that the private institutions are differs from the public institutions, and the public institutions differ from the Islamic Shariat courts. And when we just develop the consensus among all of these issues, that the economy or the economical disabilities of the institutions in the Pakistan which are the primary based issues in the Pakistan, which should be observed that the global world is raising its income and expenses through having its personal banks. They don't have the multi yardsticks of the banks. We have developed a lot of the banks under the privatization factor. This is the one failure of the state institutions of the Pakistan. So I refer to the statutory uh, regulatory orders of the federal government of the Pakistan, so that they have to eliminate all the banks which have private reserves in their banks. They are running their banks through privatization under having no proper baseline property or proprietary rights. They are driving their income and expenses out of the public depository funds, and those funds are being transferred here and there. And through such funds, they are originating the income and expenses of their employees. Such employees do not have the future, because they are not the public servant, they are private servant. So if they are private servant and serving the bank under the banking rules which are private, so you cannot sue such bank in the court. And the courts are developed under the, and if there is an issue which is referred in the banking court, such court always referred such issue into the federal Shariat laws. When we just compare the federal Shariat laws, the customary old precedents, we observe that the globalized states differ from the latest state, and the old customs differ from the new customary precedents. And in the said connotations of the facts of the banking codes, the individuals are suffering out of the banking transactions under the transitional issues of the notices to the same. Such banks do not originate any income from your income. They originate their income from your income into their expenses, and meanwhile, you don't have any point of reserves in the said bank. If you have a lot of money in a bank, it means they will rotate the money into multi-dimensional area of investment for the welfare of their organization and not for your, and they will tell you tales, lies. This is the personal observation, which is very dark. So I observe these issues after spending a lot of the times in the law statute and in the practical observations of the Republic of the Pakistan, that the Pakistani banks are charging. These days we observe that they have created the ATM, the automated transactions. The such transactions are also being generated by you, and if you are driving incomes out of the ATM, you're also in trouble that there is a group of thief after you. So what is the statutory obligation? This is my question, landmark question of today. That if your bank account and you along with you are not safe, guarded, thereafter what would be provided by the institutions, private institutions to you? That's why I always refer that the state institutions shall be considered as a final institutions despite of the private institutions, but we believe in the private organizations, and thereafter we always suffer out of the huge quantum of the losses through the private organizations, and we believe that there would be a cure through the codes of the laws. The codes of the laws could not raise any question or fact which is time barred. I'm just delaying the words because I observed that the Republic have no grip over the English grammar, and thereby I'm bound to rotate my words in 360-degree calmly. Thereafter, in the Republic of the Pakistan, through these transitional sorts of the depository, transitional or immoral activities, the economy is being demoralized by the banking groups of the Central Asia. This is all happening in Pakistan because of the banking groups of the Pakistan. I am raising a landmark question that if any bank is doing its best job, thereafter why the economy is not in the best position? Because they're thief. They are just stealing the money of the poor public through originating. They are cutting a lot of the taxes. First they'll make you a client. After that they'll just grab your income and expenses, and after that they just rotate your income and expenses into their expenses and incomes. And when you need your uh, income, you will have a small medium amount. So this is called blackmailing. This is called constructive transitional transaction blackmailing through the banking areas of working. Because I'm originating the laws of the Pakistan, because I become myself the legislature of the Pakistan after reading a lot of the law statute. It is also observed that the basic amenities to life under the constitutional mandate is not free. So there is a constitutional lack which would be understood by us after evaluation of a lot of the laws and a lot of the informations. These are my observations regarding the banking institutions of the Republic of the Pakistan for the welfare of the Republic groups of the Pakistan, that please originate Islamic Shariat groups of banks, Islamic Shariat groups of banks in all of the uh, provincial and federal autonomies of the Pakistan for the welfare of the Pakistan, so that the individual would raise their capital gains, capital amounts, and extend their incomes and expenses through having a proportional amount of the Shariat laws of the Muslims, despite of the uh, English state. And if you believe in the English state, in the privatization culture, so the privatization culture in every sector is leading the immoral activities in corruption. Stay blessed. Today is the 24th of May, and this is the Advanced Comparative Constitutional Advocate.